Hi and welcome to this easy Joomla guide tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to talk about adding and managing categories, how to edit existing categories, and we're going to take a quick look at how menus and categories interact. So in your Joomla administrator areas, the way we navigate to categories is through the Content Categories menu. This brings us to the Category Manager area. And this, as you'll recognize, is quite like lots of the other areas in Joomla in that there's a set of buttons at the top, there's a menu down the left hand side, and there's the main area where we can see all of the categories that are defined in this system. In this table, we can click on a lot of these titles to sort by that title. And we can get a lot of information from this screen. We can see which ones are published. If they're not published, we'll be able to see if they're archived or trashed or unpublished. We can read the title of the category and we can see its alias. We can see categories that are subcategories of parent categories. And for each category, we can see how many items are published, how many items are unpublished, how many are in archive, and how many are trashed. And when I say items, I'm referring to content items or articles. So the uncategorized category here has 2 articles within it. The news one has 3. We can use these checkboxes to select all or some of the categories in this list, and then on those categories we can perform some of these actions up here. The ones that can be performed on a mass basis like this are publish, unpublish, archive, and archive only comes into play if there's an archive content module in use in the front end, which we'll talk about later. We can check these in if they've been worked on by other people. We can do some batch things to them, and the type of batch things we can do are move them to other categories, make them all subcategories of a category. We can rebuild them, or we can trash them. To create a new category, there are 2 ways we can do it. We can hit this big green button up here that says New, or if we're on any other screen within Joomla, we can go from Content, Categories, Add a New Category. Now, when creating a new category, the only option that is required is that you add a title. The rest of the settings here are optional. Alias will generate itself from the title. The description here is a piece of text that will appear above the articles in this category item on the front end if we choose to display that in the settings of the menu item for this. So when we create a menu item that points to this category on the front end, we can choose whether or not to display this description. In the Options tab, there are some layout options which are supplied from the template. So sometimes you'll have different options as to how you lay out the category on the front end here that you can change and have a look at. You can set an image that will be the default for that category. That will also display when the kind of like the description can display on the front end if it's set to display. And the alternative text, the alt text, is the piece of text that appears over an image when you mouse over it. Publishing options, much like lots of the other content items on Joomla, allows you to set the meta description and the meta keywords for search engine optimization and the author and things like that. These grayed out ones will automatically fill as soon as we press save. So let's press save and see what it does to those. So the software has automatically set these options here. The one we can change is the created by option. So if we want the created by to be by some other user rather than the one that we happen to be logged in as, we can select here and it will bring us the user area where we can select another user to be the owner or the creator of this particular category. Finally, the Permissions tab is an advanced topic. It's not something we're going to talk about today. Most of the time you won't need to do anything in here anyway. The sidebar attributes for this category are the next thing we're going to run through. If you want this particular category to be subordinate, a subcategory of another category that exists in the system, we would select it in this drop down. And if the no parent option is left here as default, it'll create the category as a top level or root level category. So here I'm going to make it a subcategory of the category uncategorized, so it'll be a brother or sister category to fruit. The other options here are status. On status you can select whether this category is published, unpublished, archived or trashed. Access is the access control level that has the ability to see this category on the front end. These are the default categories, these are the default user access levels that are available, and we can set new user access levels in Joomla. I'll show you that in another tutorial. The language option is the language that is assigned to this category. It's only useful in multilingual sites. Most of the time you can leave this on all. If you have your website in any single language, it doesn't have to be English. If it's a all Spanish website, this can be just left as all. If you have a multilingual website, say in English and Spanish, the option that you would choose here would be the one that matches the language that you have written this in. When you have a second language installed, it'll be available on this drop-down. Tags here are a flexible way of organizing content, and they can be applied to lots of other different content types within Joomla. The notes fields are reminders about what is different on this category. They're administrative notes that are displayed in the back end. They're not displayed on the front end. The version note in particular shows up in the versioning system, and that will remind us maybe what's different about this version. Now the save options at the top here is what I'm going to run through next. If you click this save button, it will save the changes and bring us back to this same screen. If you click the save and close button, it'll save the changes and bring us back to the category manager screen where multiple categories can be seen. If we use the save a new button, it will save the changes here and bring us back to a blank version of this screen so we can create a new category. And that's really useful if you're creating multiple categories in a row. If you select the save as copy button, it will create a copy of this and it will add a number to the end of it so that there are no naming clashes, and a number to the end of the alias, so you'll want to change those. But that's useful if you have a lot of the other settings already set. You can create a copy of that category and then change what needs changing in it. The version button gives you access to the versioning system. And the close button here closes the screen without saving any of the changes. To edit an existing category, this fruit category for example, we just click on the title and that will bring us into a very similar screen. Again, where we can see the attributes of this category and make edits to them. Now it's important to understand that the organization of the content within the system is controlled through categories and articles, but the menu items in the front end control the display of that data. So if we look at this news category for example, we can see its title is news, its alias is news, and it has a category description defined in here. Within this news item, there are 3 content items defined. So let's look at this in the front end. On the front end of the website, I've already made a menu item to link through to that category and display the items, all the items within that category. So here are the 3 articles, 1, 2, 3, that are defined within that category. I've also made the news menu item display the category description, which appears up here. So whereas the menu items here control how these articles are displayed, and I can have them display 2 articles or have them display in alphabetical order or chronological order, the categories in the back end control the actual organization of the content. And we'll talk through menus and menu systems in another tutorial in much more depth. So that's it for today. In this tutorial we covered the category area and I gave you an overview of the category area. We talked about adding new categories, editing existing categories, and we had a quick look at how menus and categories interact on the front end. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching this Easy Joomla Guide tutorial.